Croftier City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
In the newsletter. Today we have a short presentation by Mr. Kaeseng Lee on the wonders of Bhutan. And people might say, where is Bhutan? Well, you're about to find out. Mr. Kaeseng Lee is one of the 10 members of the Association of Bhutanese Tour Operators and comes all the way from Bhutan especially to inform members about the wonders of touring the country. So please put your hands together and welcome an opportunity to see Bhutan.
Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. We say Kuzu Zampo in my language. I'm very privileged to be giving a keynote where Bhutan is and how the tourism sector is actually governed and run. So first, before I start my slide, in fact, I wanted to introduce what I have been doing. So it is, the well-received gesture. Every time when we see or make a presentation, talk to people, we always, go in front. We bow down with our two hands. That symbolize that my hands are free, so I'm not carrying any weapons, guns, or bows and arrows with me. So please feel free, right? So that's basically a gesture to greet, so every time. And more, you bow down further, indicates to who you are actually referring to. So if I happen to meet or to see royal families or high-ranking people, so we would bow down actually further down. So that's sort of the culture and greeting gesture. So as I'll be presenting on tourism in Bhutan, it's actually the wonders list. And before I begin my presentation, I would like to know if you can just raise your hand to see how many of you have been to Bhutan already.
Only one.
Wow, thank you. That's not bad at all. I was just expecting maybe one or two. So I'm just confused now because many of you have been, so I may just run out my topic. Because you already know much, right? Anyway, thank you. So just for those who have not been, just to give you a general idea of where Bhutan is, it's a very small tiny kingdom governed by Wangchuk dynasty, and it's south of autonomous region of Tibet, and then from north and south we are bordered by India. So the strategic point of Bhutan, in fact, we are sandwiched between two powerful nations in the world. So you have China, we have China on the north, and we have India in the south. But the recent development since 2008, Bhutan in fact today has been changed to constitutional democracy. So government today is in fact run by the Prime Minister, but we have His Majesty the King as the highest body. So it's something very similar to England. Bhutan has, also identified a destination, and it is also called happiness. Happiness is a place, and I'm quite sure that Bhutan has also been well known for outsiders as the happiness, the happiest nation. And it's been somehow, as I work in the tourism industry, so meaning I get to meet a lot of people, and they always been asking, saying that, what is the metric that you measure happiness? Do you go from door to door to ask people, saying how you are happy? But I wanted to make a clear statement here, saying that, happiness index that we measure, it's in fact, it's a philosophy, and then it is supported by the 4 major pillars. So those are in fact the mechanism behind that we are trying to achieve, which will be then passed on to our younger generation. So that is why the happiness index that we focus very important onto it. So Bhutan do not have GDP. In fact, many developed countries are so focused into GDP, and then only the mechanism to convince or to show people and then to market ourselves is the GNH, which is the gross national happiness. So if you consider of knowing about Bhutan's GDP, it's not even 10%. But we don't have GDP, we have gross national happiness. So that is Bhutan. So to talk about the country, the size itself is quite similar to Switzerland. So we are like 38,600 square kilometers. But at one stage it was a bit higher, so this is like the recent demarcation. Now it is like very official. And tourism, coming back to it, so we were open only since 1974. So until 1974, Bhutan remained mysterious. Even today, a lot of people are not very sure where Bhutan is. And in fact, I've come across a handful of people thinking Bhutan is somewhere in the Middle East, which we are not actually, so we're in Asia. And then one of the principal and one of the most, the unique of Bhutan's philosophy, law is, and then the wealth of the country basically is forest. So we have 72% of the country which is covered under dense forest. It's an agricultural based country. So about 70% of the national, the nations are still farmers, and then rest, like 30%, which fits into civil servant, and then also the corporate office. So it's very much like unused land, but it's due to also the terrain, because we are situated at a very mountainous, landscape. And that's the overall size. At the same time, Bhutan today, it's a very small nation. So only, we are not even 1 million. So you would think for the country size of very similar to Switzerland, but we have, this is current, the population from 2018. So we are 735, 553. But that's now, it's been already 1 month old. So we might have few newborns. But it's not drastic that we have a huge population growth. In fact, so it is like a very slow, process for contributing to, the growth of our population. And Bhutan has a very unique tourism policy, as you may be aware, and then I have seen many of you have been there. It's not like the other country that you would see in Southeast Asia or in Asia particularly. Every tourist coming into Bhutan, besides Bangladesh, Maldives and India, must it's required to have visa, which can be only obtained by engaging through one of the registered local tour company. And many people have thought that it is so difficult to get it, but in a way, in fact, if you know the channel how to do it, it's not so difficult. But I'm not saying that it would be, accessible for one to just show up and then get visa, on arrival. So you need to have an engagement of a local tour operator beforehand to make all your planning, and then you will be issued an e-visa before arriving to Bhutan. So with e-visa, you can travel to Bhutan, but it is also counter-check from the city that you disembark. For particularly, if you fly into Paru from Bangkok for Suvarnabhumi Airport. So the airline counter there would actually cross-check that you have an e-visa issued in advance. So this is it wouldn't be really a surprise. You would just hop onto plane, you arrive in Paro and you don't have visa. But those are the measures which has already been taken care. And particularly Bhutan is not a destination for budget travelers. And we will come later, so we have some more why we do that. So in order to come to Bhutan, one requires to spend the minimum daily spending, which is you have tariff, daily tariff that one should pay in order to visit Bhutan. The Bhutan has many things that you can see, right? But it's more definitely not a shopping destination. We don't have shopping malls. You will find very small market, but very authentic. And then let me take this advantage. Bhutan even does not have a 7-Eleven. But we have something greater. There's only one store in the capital, it's called 8-Eleven. And if you are coffee lovers like myself, we don't have Starbucks. We don't have McDonald's. If you are so into, if you're addicted to coffee, I recommend it is always a wise idea that you bring your own. You cannot go to Starbucks or you will not get, the good. But Bhutan is also likely exploring into growing coffees in southern, belt, which is subtropical. But that might take another, 10 years. So if you're considering to visit Bhutan before 10 years, I strongly recommend to bring your coffee if you're a coffee lover. So also Bhutan has 4 the seasons. So we have winter, which is now, and then the temperature in major part of northeast, central would be a bit, extreme, but not like Antarctica. The night temperature can be -5, 3 to 5. But if you go extreme north, but obviously it's not a destination for tourists to go extreme north, unless to nomads who live there. So, those people can actually be under blanket of snow for 2 to 3 months. But the major part or the area that tourists would basically visit is more in the western part of Bhutan, which includes Paro, Thimphu, Punakha. And you can actually find variations of climatic zone. So you can go from upland region to a subtropical, just within a very short span of drive. So it's not very far enough to get down into the lower land. So if you love flowers and the more pleasant weather, the most time and beautiful, like month to travel is like during summers. So during summers, it's lush green, it's temperate. The night temperature can be like in between 5 to 8. The day temperature can rise from 14 to 22 Celsius. So Celsius. So like very comfortable. But if you like longer days with not much of rain, so the fall season, like during the autumn, that's one of the most beautiful time to visit Bhutan. With the harvest time, you will actually see all the farmers being engaged in their particular field, cultivating rice, which is one of the main crops, besides tons of chilies. So in Bhutan, we have so many wonderful vegetables, but at the same time, chili is not considered as a spice. It's part of the vegetables because it's thrown in all cookings. So we know this is something that you might revive to say, but I think also in Thailand you have a lot of spice food. So the pictures you can also see, like if you come in the fall, you see the big, rice terrace with all the colors, and those are the rice field. And the pictures that you see from winter, so you don't see much of the getting of the colors. It's more, grayish or brown. But it's again not the best. It's not the worst time to travel. In fact, Bhutan today is, promoted as a year-round destination, but it would, depend on what type of weather that you can tolerate. So any season that you come, it's always beautiful. So there's something different. As through my experience, the only month that if I'm asked by people saying that when should not I come, so I always say it's from the second week of August till like the first week of September. That's where we have the monsoon. But if you look online or read on Bhutan, it is always mentioned that June, July, August is our monsoon. But in fact, for last 7 to 8 years, June has been one of the best seasons to travel. It could also be because the weather pattern across the world has changed now. So we feel like our monsoon is also being pushed backwards. So that's why we have more rain towards the end of the monsoon. So June has been like one of the best time to travel, but many think that because on the calendar, most of the information say June, July is something that you should not be traveling, which is not really true. So I don't know whether this is from the global warming effect or this could be something that since we in fact borrowed the tourism pattern from our neighboring states. So then what do you expect? It's a very important element. So to know that what you would expect, Bhutan is like 6 hours ahead of GMT. Then we have climate, as I mentioned earlier, the different zones. So language, of course, it's Songkha, but English is outspoken widely. So it's like our medium language. And we have the money, if you wanted to know about the currency, today one local new is like one US is like 70 local, it's called neutron, but you can short form it as new. And it's very common that people also use as the, what's called rupees, because we have a free trade with India. And most importantly, and then to feel very homely, Bhutan also caters a lot of like social events. Any guests coming in, so we have our own locally brewed alcohol known as ara. It's a rice wine, very similar to sake, but it's a very different, like taste, much stronger, not as sweet. And then it's always offered to the guests coming into their homes. But let me also tell you, like, particularly in eastern part of Bhutan, every man, when they were young, has been educated by their parents that two of the most things that you must carry as a man were the machete knife and a wooden cup. And they define saying that to start your day, you don't know whether you come against, towards enemy, because that's where you need your knife, or there may be a time people might just invite you to come and drink, so you need a cup that you carry all the time. So those were two of the primary weapons that, children were educated from a very young, age, that it's a tradition that they follow. So in terms of accommodations, so Bhutan also has been open to FDI, which means like foreign direct investment. And then now we have those like international chain hotels, like expensive Aman, Como Resorts, that's like the Singaporean brand. And we have a couple more, like some of our guests already have stayed at Chihuahua, which is a local brand. So it doesn't suit in with any international brand. It's of its own kind. And for health, we have free health, including nations. At the same time, it is also included to any Westerners coming into Bhutan if you get sick. So we have a treatment. We basically, have a very basic ones, but also we do have a national referral hospital, which is based in the capital. And then it always comes free. And, people, if you are not well, so you can always, walk into any of the hospitals to get, the treatment. And safety, so Bhutan has a very minimal crime. So in fact, it's in fact not much. So it's very safe for any travelers coming in, be man or woman. So there's no, a reason to be unsafe to come to Bhutan. And it is also maybe because we live in a very small, community. So the other thing, disadvantage of living in a small community is like, you don't want to be bad at all. Because if you do something in the West, by 3 hours, everybody in the East knows you. So that's why, so it's one of the element that it's very safe. People are, behave very, very well. Communications today, since 1999, Bhutan is connected to outside world. We have television and internet. Internet may not be so efficient, but if you get, when you're into major cities or the city, you can have a connection. But when you're traveling, so sometimes in some of the areas which you may be cut off, but we don't have a restriction. So you can use any kind of social media to stay up with your, a family abroad. And shopping, as I mentioned, we are not, a really big with shopping malls and all, but you may get something to do with handicraft. And tourism policy is something, so why we have the strong policy is basically to control and offset all those budget travelers. And that's the facts of facts for the travelers. Why country charge you the minimum spending, and then where the money goes. People may worry thinking that government is taking a lot of money, but what they do. So basically, it's like the facts that it provides, and then where the money is actually spent on the education, and then for free health and other development. Bhutan today is connected to outside world, and then we have two airlines, Duke Air being the national airline, and Bhutan Airline Private Limited is a private, choice that one could fly into country. So it's connected from Bangkok, Singapore, Delhi, Kathmandu, and some of the Indian states in northeast India. And to get there, so this actually tells you which city that you can disembark. And that's it. And you have briefly been to Bhutan, and we hope to see you physically to visit us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And if you'd like to answer questions from anybody outside when you finish, will you still be available for a few minutes afterwards outside? Okay. Thank you very much. And one quick question, your party is dressed in traditional dress, yes? Can we see the other members come up here? And there was a gentleman here, yes. I'm sorry, I thought it was a dressing gown. Just up there to show everybody. And obviously you can buy these in Bhutan, yes? Another reason to go.
Also, they've said they're happy to answer questions outside, and you can get your photo taken with them in their costumes and so on.